What is going on, guys? Welcome back to an episode of the No Name Podcast. It is your boy, Young Rich, back again with another episode. And again, I want to first start off by saying I appreciate everyone who's been watching my videos, supporting my TikToks, watching my Reels. It's just all been a blessing, just to see it consistently. I'm getting around 300 to 400 views on my YouTube videos and my shorts, and then TikTok, pushing 700,000 views every time. I mean, it's just great to see. And again, I appreciate everyone who supports, because obviously at the end of the day, that's the goal of all of this. That's the point of what I'm trying to do. And also, I've realized that a lot of people who do this sports influencer, sports content side of things, they do not only obviously talk about sports, but they do a lot of other sports content, specifically just not all podcast videos. They do, I see a lot of people now talking about the combine, people breaking down prospects of this year's combine, ranking quarterbacks, discussing, instead of, not everything needs to be a podcast is basically what I'm saying, So I'm definitely going to be trying to be putting out more content, more shorter, friendlier content for people who don't have the time to go sit through, an hour long, 2 hour, 15-minute podcast, because obviously I know everyone can't sit there and listen to this information for an hour. Some people enjoy that, like me, myself. I enjoy listening to other people's podcasts and just hearing, the people getting paid to do it, how they feel. But sometimes I'm just sitting there and I'm listening to, Colin Cowherd, and he says something where I'm just like, oh, that makes sense. Or I'm like, I don't know where you got that from, So it's obviously definitely good to not only learn, how to make my content the most interesting thing possible, but also get an idea how everyone does their own things. Everyone has their own style to doing things. Everyone has, their own little tips and tricks and things to do to keep people interested into their show. So obviously I'm trying to learn from the best, and still I'm not even on year one of this whole thing. I mean, I believe I'm about 6 months in, and to me I feel pretty good. I feel like I'm getting better as I go. The more I practice, the more I watch, the more research I do and things like that, I just feel more comfortable getting behind a mic and saying what I gotta do, but today is going to be a basketball dedicated video. But before I get straight into the basketball, obviously I got to talk about a couple key NFL free agent moves that I thought were some big time splashes. I mean, listen, the Houston Texans, I want to give them a lot of credit here because obviously you know what you have in CJ Stroud. This upcoming year, you have one of the toughest schedules in the NFL. I believe they play in Baltimore. They play at Dallas against the Cowboys. They play Joe Burrow. Obviously the division is going to be tough. The Colts are coming. They're coming back for that redemption run. Then you still have the Jacksonville Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence. You still know that's a competitive team. I mean, again, 8-3 before Trevor Lawrence ended up getting hurt. And they're going to have to play the Chiefs next year as well. So they're going to have a tough schedule. So obviously I knew they needed to make some moves, and that's exactly what they did. I mean, bringing in Joe Mixon for an extension. Again, another great running back I really love. You have Danielle Hunter for the Minnesota Vikings, who, I mean, even at year 32, 31, he's still performing phenomenal. I mean, 16 and a half sacks last year. Again, absolutely insane production on a Minnesota team that was coming through defensively that last second half of the season, and the Texans knew they needed to make some moves to obviously, you need to get some pass rushers. You need to get some defense out there if you're going to compete against these better teams. And that's exactly what they did. Bringing in Daniel Hunter, you paid him a good amount of money, but pairing him with Will Anderson, I think it's a great combination. You have a vet who's shown that he's had some life left in him. And then you have someone up and coming like Will Anderson. Obviously, this was a big money commitment. So you expect big things from Daniel Hunter. Obviously, his production needs to match what he just did this previous year. Again, and then you re-sign Dalton Schultz to an extension. You bring in Azeez Al-Shaair, former Tennessee Titan, was formerly known for being on the San Francisco 49ers. So he does have that chemistry with DeMeco Ryans, a good pickup. You get a good vet who knows your system defensively, and a linebacker piece that you could really use. And then Jeff Okudah, who I know he's been not having the career he was projected to have, but I still think it's a great piece for them. I think he really was coming through as a solid piece in Atlanta. Signing him to a one-year deal, giving him a chance to, still make a name for himself, still prove that he's a capable starter in the NFL. I think it's a good move. And then you re-sign Danico Ari, excuse me. DN last year, previously with the Texans, had 11 and a half sacks, 12 tackles for loss. So again, you have more depth on the defensive end piece, and you just traded your first round pick to the Minnesota Vikings. So you got some more draft capital. So you're gonna have some, opportunities to add some extra pieces, add some extra depth at certain places. Maybe you get a receiver in the early second round. There's a lot of opportunities out here to make some good moves, and then add some depth in some pieces where you lack. Hopefully they go out here and draft another receiver, hopefully another cornerback. Because again, you have the QB locked in, and you started adding defense to it. Which again, if you give CJ Stroud an elite defense, I think he's going to be a scary quarterback to be facing. This is going to be a scary team to be facing this upcoming year. And then one of the biggest teams that I need to discuss is the Chicago Bears. Listen, I mean, they've done more this offseason than they did for Justin Fields' his entire career in Chicago, right? And obviously, I know they haven't drafted a quarterback yet, but it feels like they're getting ready to draft a quarterback. They are making all these moves now. They locked in the defensive pieces in Jalen Johnson, Montez Sweat. You brought in these defensive pieces. You brought in Kevin Byard from Tennessee, who obviously was on the Eagles last year, but he was an all Pro Bowler, all pro type free safety. You bring in DeAndre Swift, who, again, I think is an underrated pickup. I really liked what he did in Philadelphia. I think he didn't get the ball as much as he would have liked, and I think putting him in that Chicago offense, we've already seen is successful running the ball. And then you add that with the likes of Caleb Williams, who's obviously, let's be real, he's going to be the number one overall pick, right? He's going to be the first one taken. So you give him a running back like DeAndre Swift, great addition. But my biggest win now move that they made for him, and this is going to help him in the long run, is the fact you brought in, Keenan Allen, right, for a 4th round pick. And I know Keenan Allen's got age, right? I understand that, right? That Los Angeles Chargers offense was not working how we all thought it was going to work this last year, right? They released Mike Williams, traded Keenan Allen, and then you restructured his contract to make just a little bit more cap room for you. And I think this is a great addition. I still think Keenan Allen's got a lot left in the tank, and you pair him with DJ Moore. I mean, DJ Moore is that speedster type receiver. He's quick. And then you have a guy like Keenan Allen who's just a route technician. He could run routes against anybody. And I think you got some good years left in him. I love Keenan Allen's game. He's one of my favorite receivers to watch. And you pair him with Caleb Williams. You gave Caleb Williams not only a top tight end in the league in Cole Kmet, right, who's only going to get better, if we hope, from after year one, after his rookie season, right? But then you give him 2 solid 1,000-yard receivers. Like Keenan Allen was tearing this league up, was a top 5 receiver for a couple years, top 8 receiver for a couple years, and then it slowly just fell off. But that whole Chargers offense wasn't producing like it should. So I think it's a great addition. You give him a veteran receiver who knows how to get open, who knows how to create space, who you can trust, right? And again, you're giving Caleb Williams 2 of the best weapons he's ever had in his life. 2 of the best weapons he's ever had in his life, and I just don't see this as a situation where he's gonna not succeed. Okay, obviously they do gotta address the offensive line position. I would like them. I know they got a couple depth pieces, but I would like to see them go out there and with that 9th overall pick or early 2nd, get some offensive linemen, maybe draft a receiver. Who knows, right? Who knows? But you have the opportunity to really splash here and really make yourself a very scary team to be playing in the upcoming year. But again, I think it's a great situation for Caleb Williams. And then one of the other signings I want to discuss is the Tennessee Titans signing Calvin Ridley to a 4-year, $92 million contract, $50 million is guaranteed, $23 million a year. Listen, I am a big fan of Calvin Ridley. He's one of my favorite receivers, right? Last year, he went for 1,000 yards in an offense that fell off after week 11, right? They went 8-3, and then after that, their offense fell off, and their offense was never really catching stride. And he had to kind of sit back and be the number 2 option to Christian Kirk, and Evan Ingram and Zay Jones, right? The Jacksonville Jaguars invested into those guys, and so those were the guys they tried to rely on. And I definitely think Calvin really should have gotten more targets, more opportunities to make plays, because, he is that type of receiver. He is that caliber, right? This dude went for a 1,300-yard season with a broken ankle. He was playing on a broken ankle, and he went out there and went for 1,300 yards with Matt Ryan on the last leg of his career, right? Julio Jones was there for a little bit and ended up getting hurt. So it was Calvin Ridley's year. This dude dude is an elite receiver. He can stop on a dime. He is route running. He's a nasty route runner. And I'm just so excited for him going forward. Pairing him with D-Hop, right? You bring in Tony Pollard to get a receiving back, a back who can kind of do it all. I'm not very high on Tony Pollard, but that's a good addition to the team, right? The only thing you question about this move is what you're going to get from what I can't even remember his name because he's so irrelevant. What? Hold up. Why am I blanking? I just had an absolute breakdown, but Will Levis. I don't know why I forgot his name, but I did. But it's okay. But yes, obviously the question of his production, if he's going to be worth that money, does have to do with quarterback play. If Will Levis can go out there and perform, and we know he's got a strong arm. I mean, he only showed one game to me where he proved any sort of potential, and that was against the Miami Dolphins when they went in there and upset. I mean, dude threw for 4 touchdowns, showed off his remarkable arm strength, but definitely that last half of the season, he was very inaccurate. I mean, 58 completion percentage is not something you want to see from a supposed to be franchise guy, so there is question marks with the QB position. I mean, listen, they can go out there and go draft another quarterback if the opportunity presents themselves, but yes, all question is obviously on the quarterback for that team, for Calvin Ridley in general, but I do like that wide receiver duo, right? And then another key pickups that I love I'm talking a little bit about the bottom feeder teams here because I do like to see the bottom feeder teams start competing again and make this, league as competitive as possible because, when you have 32, if you could ever have 32 teams all going out there and competing week in and week out, and it's like down to the more competitive it is, the better it is, not only for the sport, for us as fans, as we watch, but it's just better for the community. The vibes are better. The action is better. The ratings is going to go up. And that's all you could ask for at the end of the day. It's just competitive and good football to watch, right? But listen, the Carolina Panthers trade for Deontay Johnson. They do a Dante Jackson quarterback from Carolina swap, and they swap 2 picks. But I think it's an absolute steal of a pick for the Carolina Panthers, right? I really do like Deontay Johnson. We've seen what he did his rookie year, right? And he kind of had a slow year 2, year 3 with a lackluster quarterback play. I mean, this dude was playing with Kenny fucking Pickett and, Mason Rudolph, it's not, and Mitchell Trubisky at one point. It's just not great quarterback play for you in a situation, right? And I understand he's had the drops issue in his career, but one thing he does know how to do is get open, right? So if he's going out here, he's going to have a couple drops in the year, but he's going to give me a 1,200-yard season, I'm okay with it, right? Because he's more than capable of doing that. And now you put him in an offense where you've seen his energy, you've seen how he's reacted. He wants to be a number one guy. He wants to get his targets. And now you put him in a system where you pair him up with Adam Thielen and now Bryce Young. That's his only 2 receivers. And I really do like this. I mean, he's young. He's playing for an extension type year. He's trying to get paid. He's trying to extend his career and make some money this offseason. So now you get a chance to go out there with a young QB who can give you that. I've seen some bright spots from Bryce Young. I know everyone's going to hate on him and say this, but I still have high hopes for Bryce Young. He went into one of the worst situations possible in the NFL, and we've seen it, right? One of the worst O-lines, one of the worst defenses. It was just absolutely atrocious, and you could say whatever you want. He never really had no help. That's my discussion, right? And this year, they really want him to develop and blossom and see some strides from him. And listen, they invested $153 million between 2 offensive linemen, right? Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis, 2 highly rated offensive linemen in the NFL. They've been doing this for a long time. They're great at what they do. And I think it's a great pickup. You needed to go out there and spend some money on offensive linemen to protect Bryce Young, your franchise QB, right? Again, we're not worried about Bryce Young's talent or his size, sure, but he's more than capable. I'm more than confident if you give him offensive linemen and some weapons, he's going to make some plays. And that's exactly what you did. You went out here, you invested, you got a couple extra picks from trading Brian Burns, who we're going to get in discussion about in a minute, right? So now you have the opportunity to go out there and go add to this team, right? Go get him maybe another receiver, maybe get a cornerback. Do what you got to do, but continue to build around Bryce Young. And I love this for the Carolina Panthers, right? For their fan base, because obviously there's been a lot of questioning moves about the not getting any first round picks for Brian Burns or Christian McCaffrey in the past, right? So definitely this is a good pickup for them. It's a sign they're trying to get into the right direction. You invested in your offensive line, so now you get to, and you add another weapon who, again, I'm very highly of. I'm not saying Deontay Johnson a top 10 receiver, but I'm very highly of him, especially in a situation like this. And then the next team is the New York Giants. And I know the New York Giants still have to answer their quarterback situation, right? Daniel Jones should not be that guy. He's not that guy, right? After this year, they're probably most likely going to cut him or trade him with someone who wants him, right? Because, I mean, after this is the only year that's guaranteed for Daniel Jones left on his contract extension. $40 million, obviously, but we will definitely see how that goes. But, I mean, listen, you bring in Brian Burns, who, again, just a year ago was one of the best DNs in football. He was top 5 in sacks. Last year he wanted to get his extension, didn't get his money right, so he was a little, waited before he ended up coming back to the team. And obviously we've seen that affect people in the past, not getting all these offseason reps. So now you bring him in for a 5-year, $150 million deal, $30 million per year, right? And you pair him with Kayvon Thibodeau, and I think it's a great matchmaking. You still have Dexter Lawrence, right? You have these players. This defense is going to be looking fine. I have high hopes for them, right? You did lose Isaiah McKinney to the free agency and Saquon Barkley. I understand. Not everything's going to be perfect right now. You had to go out and invest in some money, and that's what you decided to do. You invested in a top-tier DN, and I respect you for it. If, you guys are understanding, you're not going to be the great offensively this upcoming year. You're lacking a couple weapons. Darren Waller kind of falling off. Jalen Hyatt hopefully can show you some strides, but you understand you're going to be lacking a little bit of offensive production this year. And so now you want to build that defense, right? And I respect this position because everybody knows if you want to be a great team, you want to beat great teams, and you don't have the offensive talent to do it, you got to get after the quarterback, right? And that's exactly what they're trying to do here. So I respect what they're doing. I like Brian Burns' pickup. And at the same time, they went out here and invested in the offensive line, which was one of the worst in the NFL this past year, right? We've seen Daniel Jones was sacked 9 times in 2 different games, right? Jermaine Eleanor, former Las Vegas Raider, was a great offensive tackle, 87.9% pass win rate, which is great, right? Solid pickup. And then you got John Runyan from Green Bay, a guard from Green Bay who now signed with the New York Giants. Again, 94.2% pass win rate, block percentage, and he was 9th in that category to guards in the NFL, which again, if you're getting a top 9 guard, that at their position, it's great to see that you're adding protection to the future QB who's supposed to be drafted, right? So definitely this makes things interesting. I mean, this gives these teams opportunities to go out here and perform at a decent level. They're trying to do their best they can to compete, and I think they made some good moves. I mean, this division definitely got a lot of upside. It's a lot of question marks in Philadelphia, right? A lot of question marks in Dallas. We hear Jerry Jones say he's all in, and we haven't seen any moves. The only thing we've seen is people lose. Them not sign people and seeing people leave for other money elsewhere, right? So, and then the Washington Commanders, I mean, obviously they still got to build their team. They've got a good receiving core, but they still got to figure out their quarterback situation. So whoever that may be, so there's still question marks there. But I mean, you could, and depending on who you get at quarterback, obviously that's everything. But it's looking okay. It's not looking as bad as you might have thought for releasing Saquon, and how everyone made it seem. Again, you have to hit on the draft. Obviously, you have to hit on the quarterback, right? But we will definitely see how this plays out. Again, you went out there, you knew you weren't going to be a great team on offense, rookie quarterback, everyone's young, you don't really have a top tier receiver. Darren Waller's kind of like, the downfall in his career is what it looks like. You had one of the worst offensive lines. So what do you go out there and do? You invest in offensive linemen. You still have your draft picks. You're going to take a quarterback in the first round, so this is definitely going to be interesting, and I like what they're doing. I really do. Breaking news. Aaron Donald. It's a sad day, man. Aaron Donald, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 10-time Pro Bowler, 8-time All-Pro, 1-time Super Bowl champ. Rams defensive tackle Aaron Donald retires from the NFL. Wow. Man. I'm truly lost for words because I mean I know this question was up in the air, but I mean listen, he came into the NFL. I've been watching him play for 10 years. Coming out of Pitt, I mean he was just again, right as soon as he came to the NFL, he made a direct impact. Was one of the best players in the NFL, the best player at his position. And to see a guy like that with that much dominance over the course of his career, finally hang it up. I mean, he was only 31, 32. It sucks to see. I mean, obviously, the Rams probably just got a lot of cap space just opened up. That's a huge piece for the Rams to have to go fill. And especially with free agency being over now, like it's a tough situation, you know? So they're definitely going to have to figure some things out now. But congrats to a hell of a career, Aaron Donald. You know, although you only had one Super Bowl, you're still going to be one of the greatest players to ever play the game. One of the best to ever play at that position. And being 6'1" and doing so, very, very, very impressive. Man. You had a great career, Aaron Donald. I still remember watching you as a kid. And, 10 years ago, how old was I then? 11 years old watching this guy first time in the NFL. Man, what a career, Aaron Donald. I mean, he's hands down going to be a Hall of Famer. That is without question. But, again, shout out to a great career, man. Enjoy retirement, AD. With that being said, moving on to the next topic of discussion. Obviously, I wanted to break down the NBA awards. I mean, the end of the NBA season is coming up. Hopefully your team's producing more than mine right now. I mean, the Lakers have been losing a couple clutch games. We just got swept by Sacramento Kings for the first time in 17 years or something like that. It's been a long time since they swept us like that. So it's been a struggle. I mean, at the same time, I'm not scared of going through the play-in because I think we're a bad one-and-done team, like a bad matchup for some of these teams. But again, I mean, it could kind of be a repeat of last year, of what happened. But, definitely my team has not been performing as well. So hopefully your team has been providing better basketball than mine has. Just very inconsistent. But with that being said, the first NBA award I want to discuss is the Sixth Man of the Year. And again, this is all my personal choices, my votes. This is my ballot for although they don't matter to nobody but me. This is my official ballot for the NBA awards. First award, the Sixth Man. I'm giving it to Malik Monk. I mean, Malik Monk, 15.7 points off the bench, 37% from three. This guy has just been playing phenomenal basketball this year. A guy that I wish the Lakers would have re-signed. He went to Los Angeles, played good basketball, and then unfortunately we didn't want to end up extending him. But I mean, what he's done not only last year but this year, I mean, has just been remarkable. I mean, he's just taken over games week in, every other night. Like it feels like when De'Aaron Fox is having an off night. Don't worry, Malik Monk is here to save the day. I mean, he had a game against the Timberwolves where he only had 4 points in the first three quarters. He goes into that fourth quarter, ends up with 34, and then we go into OT, and he ends up dropping 44 on him for the win. I mean, you have a guy like that who can, when he gets hot, I mean, it's scary to see. And one of the biggest things that he's added to his game is the fact that he can now play make, which gives you that additional ball handler who can play make for your team, and when he comes out and runs with this second unit, I mean, it's just great basketball, I mean, he can jump out the gym and give you a highlight dunk, he can go out there and then spot up and shoot. He can also create for himself. He could finish. I mean, there's just no negative to his game. And when you have a guy that explosive off the bench, and 9 times out of 10, he's closing the game out for him, right? Unless he says having an off night or it's a lineup situation. But this is a guy who goes out there, is going to help your team close games, who he's going to win some games for you with his ability to score. But I mean, this man has made such a big impact for the Sacramento Kings this year. The Sacramento Kings offense has declined a little bit from their last year run, right? De'Aaron Fox had a little bit was a little bit up and down up until the All-Star break. He's been starting to come out and be played more like a dominant number one we've seen him play in the past. But when you have a guy like Malik Monk coming off the bench, doing what he could do, giving you buckets when De'Aaron Fox is not on the floor, I mean, it's great. And then you pair them up together on the same court, playing at the same time to close out games. I mean, it's just a good duo, and then you have the playmaking of Sabonis to pair with it. And then Sabonis playmakes and Malik Monk can feed off that and score and get buckets. And it's just great to see, when he's out there hitting shots, the Sacramento fan base is going crazy, like there's no energy like Sacramento. And when he goes out there and bangs a three, the stadium lights up, he lights up. And then next thing you know, this team is rolling. He is definitely one of those, like fire players. Like he makes a big move. He's an energy type player. He's gonna come off the bench, give you that energy, give you that mojo, get you guys in the groove of things. Especially if it's been a rough night for some people. He can go out there, get something going. Make this crowd get into it. And once the crowd gets into it in Sacramento, there's no place like it. So again, I think he deserves to win the award. I mean, there's just nobody else in my eyes that could even compete for this award. I think he was one of the most clear-cut wins in this whole list, And then the second NBA award is going to be the Defensive Player of the Year, DPOY, and that's going to Rudy Gobert. I mean, Rudy Gobert is the anchor to a top 3 defense in the NBA, right? And he's paired up with Cat and Anthony Edwards. And obviously we know Cat is not a very great defender, so he has to really be that ultra great rim protection, right? And not a lot of people challenge him at the rim, so he's not leading the NBA in blocks, but his impact has a lot more, closing out possessions, getting blocks, contesting shots, being so long, he could just do a lot of things. 2 blocks a game, 13 rebounds, 2 blocks, 13 rebounds a game. He's just been so elite. I mean, and for a guy like Victor Wembanyama, who's, again, he was in my discussion as well for Defensive Player of the Year, as he should be for everyone's with what he's doing. But Victor Wembanyama is also leading a bottom 30 defense in the NBA, So when you see someone that defensively impactful and then the rest of the team is not living up to the expectation, the team is not performing as well as the numbers say, obviously it's a little misleading. And obviously we know Victor Wembanyama is a great defensive talent, one of the elite rim protectors in the league, but unfortunately, with what Gobert has done and where his team at is in the standings, atop the West, with how them clicking right now, trying to make a run this year. I mean, it's undoubtedly his. There's nobody doing it like him as of right now. He's making the biggest defensive impact. I mean, when Rudy Gobert is not on the court, you see the defense of numbers. They drop. You don't have those same numbers with someone like Cat down there or Naz Reid out there. So again, Defensive Player of the Year goes to Rudy Gobert. He's about to win it for his second time? I believe it's his second. I believe it's his second. It could be his third, but either way, right? And they're going to Clutch Player of the Year. Clutch Player of the Year is obviously going to, in my eyes, going to be Stephen Curry. I mean, top 5 in fourth quarter points, first in clutch points, 165, right? I mean, this guy has just carried his team to a spot to possibly get into the playoffs, and he's willed his team just doing so much. I mean, he dropped 55 against us and still lost. He's been doing stuff like that all year. When you need a clutch bucket, he's going to go out there and do it. And I know the team has finally gotten rolling. You see more of Jonathan Kuminga. You see a little bit less of Andrew Wiggins. And so you start seeing these pieces clicking. Obviously, you have Steve Kerr to figure it out. But, I mean, listen, there's Clay coming off the bench. There's nobody you'd rather have taken that shot than Steph Curry, and he's proved that this year. Hitting dagger after dagger. I mean, he's just been clutch. He's been elite when you need him the most in the fourth quarter, late game situations. He's won you a bunch of games, and even if he's not won you games, he's giving you the best chance to do so, So again, I think there really was no debate this year. De'Aaron Fox had a very off year in the fourth quarter numbers, right, compared to what he did last year. So definitely, undoubtedly, Steph Curry gets the clutch award of the year. And then most improved player, right? I mean, this one is very close because I've been watching a lot of Kobe White, who's been playing phenomenal basketball. But again, and I think he's made the biggest jump. But again, I mean, what Tyrese Maxey has done this year, I mean, 26, 6 and 4, 37% from 3-point percentage. He's kind of willing the team as much as he can without Joel Embiid. It's impressive to see what he's done. He came a long way. The biggest thing was, I mean, they didn't want to extend him this offseason, give him the max extension because they weren't sure what they were going to get from Tyrese Maxey, and then you trade James Harden, you give him the opportunity to go out there and thrive as a number 2 scorer on the team, number 2 option, and he delivers. I mean, this man has just been great all year, and when him and Joel Embiid were playing together, I mean, you just got a whole different type of team, whole different offense. I mean, his ability to get to the basket, and he's so quick, and he can score, he can shoot, he can drive, he can create on his own, he can play make. And then he'll play defense, which is, to me, the most important part. You have a guy that's just showing hustle everywhere. And again, I think you can go him, you can go Kobe White, either of the two. But in my eyes, as of right now, with what Tyrese Maxey's has done this entire year, I got to give it to Tyrese Maxey. Just so fun to watch, and the way he plays the game is just elite, And then this is where everything gets interesting, which is the NBA MVP award, right? And I just want to say, first things first, right? I mean, this is a close MVP race. Like numbers wise, like you look at the numbers and there's a lot of people you could really sit there and be like, yo, they have a reason for being in this discussion, right? Giannis having one of his most efficient years shooting the basketball, one of his best years, averaging 31 points per game, 31 points per game, getting you 11 rebounds a game and 6 assists, I believe, 6 or 7. But then you have a guy like Jokic, 26, 12, and 9, most triple doubles with no turnovers in a season, who's just on a, I mean, it's kind of, at this point, it just becomes your preference on what you want from an MVP, because you see these guys perform and play at this type of level. Guy like Jokic doing what he does. I mean, he's just he's unstoppable. Like, what you gonna do about Jokic? Because he can go out there, give you 0 points and give you 10, 14 rebounds and 10 assists in the first half. Like we've seen him do stuff like that all year. And then when it comes to the clutch, when you need him to go out there and go make something happen, he can go out there and do that. And so it's just, this is a tough conversation for me. Luka is not in my top 3 favorite conversation, and that mainly has to do because how ball dominant he is, and how he just, the team success is not there, right? The 3 dudes in the top 3, which I'm going to get into the third in a minute, but Jokic atop the West, Giannis atop the East, and so again, Luka, for me, I think he's just so ball dominant. He's a great player. Don't get me wrong. He's a elite superstar in the NBA. He is the top 5 best players in basketball, but he is super ball dominant. Sometimes he doesn't give you the best defensive effort, right, that you would like to see. Then this Dallas defense was not performing as great as you would have thought, you would have wanted. So there's definitely some key things that's going to happen. We're going to see, dude. If you go 2 years in a row without making a playoff run with Kyrie Irving, there's some questions to be made. There's some things to put into account here. But listen, my personal MVP, is got to be SGA. Right. And I've been a big fan of him for the last couple years. He is just such a great player. He's just got such a deep bag. Like, he's just got so many moves, and everything with him is just, a more athletic version of Luka, and I think he can just kill you in any way possible. He's got the fadeaway. He's not afraid to post you down because he is a big guard. He's not afraid to post you down, hit a little fadeaway. He's not scared to go down there and yam on somebody, right? He's got the little step back jumper. He can hit you he can shoot the 3. He can play make. He leads the NBA in steals. As a guard, he leads the NBA in steals, right? And that's not something you would have expected from also the highest scoring guard in basketball, second highest scoring guard in basketball, So when you match that with the account, 31.1 points per game, 6 rebounds, 6 assists a game, 38% from 3, leads the league in steals,
atop the West with one of the best offenses. Nobody else on that Oklahoma City Thunder team is an all-star. J-Dub is getting there. Chet Holmgren is getting there. But again, they're not all-stars, and I think this team making this big of a jump in the standings, right? Whether they go on a deep playoff run or not, his impact to the entire game has just been phenomenal. I mean, they have 7 players shooting over 40% from three. You got Lou Dort shooting 38.5% from three. You have all these pieces and you have all these weapons around you. I just feel like he's made the biggest impact to his team winning. I mean, these guys went from a bottom 5 team in the West to being atop the West, and that has a lot to do with Shea not only buying in on the defensive end, but buying in on but elevating his offensive game, right? Playmaking, and just getting his teammates involved, and it's been great to see. Again, that's my personal opinion, because when you're talking about most valuable player, which player in this does the most for his team to win? In my eyes, it's SGA. Is SGA going to win it? Realistically, probably not. Because what Jokic is doing is unbelievable. Trust me, we all know it. I watched him live for the second time in SAC, and it was insane. I mean, this dude went out there on a back-to-back, carried his team, dropped 40, and carried 40-point triple-double and carried his team to a close win. I mean, they were down by 25 on a back-to-back, and he went out there and just started getting buckets, But, so I understand the Jokic. I'm not mad if you out here saying Jokic deserves it, but I'm just saying it's a tough race, right? And to me, I would give SGA the shove, the nod over Giannis, right? Although Giannis is having an elite year, to me, SGA it's just been remarkable, man. So, I mean, it's interesting. If you go out here and tell me, you vote for Giannis or you vote for Luka or Shea or Jokic, I'm okay with that. I'm not gonna judge you. These guys have all had crazy, insane years. But to me, Shea is the one that's got to get my vote. He's got to get the nod. But again, if Jokic goes out here and wins his 3rd MVP, I'm not worried. I'm not gonna be like, oh, that's a terrible choice, because he's playing phenomenal basketball and he does so many other things. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see going forward. Obviously, we'll see how this plays out. We still got a couple games left, still got a couple weeks left in the season. Almost a month of basketball left, maybe less. So we'll see how it plays out. The standings, the play-in tournament, and all these things. But if he goes out there and hoops in the playoffs, we'll see for sure. But and then I also forgot one. But Rookie of the Year. Listen, there was only 2 choices here. Scoot Henderson had a bit of a disappointing season. Brandon Miller, a guy who had a remarkable season, to be honest. I really liked what he did without LaMelo Ball. I mean, I thought, after the first couple summer league games, I wasn't sure what to expect from Brandon Miller. I thought he was going to be a big bust, but he definitely proved me wrong, playing well with LaMelo in the short time he had with him. Obviously, the Charlotte Hornet team is bad, but he's been playing very well. He just shows that he cares about winning. You can see his energy. He's yelling at players to get back on defense and play and just show effort. And so I like to see that from a rookie, showing that energy, that will to win, that drive to be a leader. But again, there's only 2 options for this award, and I think it's obviously going to be Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren. I mean, Vic on a 28 minutes per game, 20.7 points, 10.3 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 3.5 blocks a game. I mean, he's 34% from 3, which is you like to be a little better. But again, he also plays with Jeremy Shohan as his fucking point guard, right? But I mean, this guy has just made the 5x5 become relevant, 5x5 has become a normal thing for him. He's been doing this stuff this whole last month. He's been playing insane basketball, and listen, his defensive impact is remarkable. The ground he's able to cover with his size and his versatility to guard in the perimeter. I mean, he's just blocking people left and right, and it's just insane what he can do, what he physically can do at that size, and his ability is vertical. He's athletic, he's long. Obviously, he can shoot, can dribble, but He is, and on 28 minutes in a game, I mean, his numbers could be inflated if he played a whole 34, or 35 or whatever. But obviously, they're trying to take good care of him. His numbers could be even better, which is insane to think about what he does in 28 minutes. I mean, he's limited minutes every night. There's so many games where I'm watching him play. He goes out there, he has a hell of a quarter or a hell of a 6 minutes runs, and then he gets pulled out there for the next 10 minutes. And it sucks to see because not only could they be more competitive in these games if they let him play the entire time, but he's putting up great numbers. He's doing great things, and I'm just so curious and interested on what he could be doing if he played a full game. The full 34 minutes, an extra 6 minutes to his stat sheet. It's interesting. That's all I'm saying. It's insane to watch. I know I just stuttered a lot because I don't know how to describe this freak. This dude is insanely so cool to watch in basketball. I mean, the stuff he does is elite, and to watch him and Chet go at it when they played each other was just great basketball as well. I know it was a little old, but watching them two go at each other was a great watch. If you didn't watch it, go watch those highlights because they were going at each other's necks. They were getting disrespectful out here, talking shit, talking all this, trying to body each other, and it was great to see for the atmosphere and the energy of basketball, get these regular season games a little bit more meaningful, try to show a little some why you should be rookie of the year, So to me, Vic is undoubtedly the rookie of the year, but listen, Chet is right there as well. I mean, 16.9 points per game, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 54% from the field, 38.5% from 3, 2.5 blocks a game. Again, I mean, his numbers are not as there, but defensively he makes just the same amount of impact on his team. Obviously he's not going to have as many rebounds because he's still very skinny in his frame, and the way his spacing is and the way he's set up in OKC, obviously he's not down there to go out there and get boards like a typical center would, not like how they let Wemby play. So definitely I think he's had a great season being a number 2 option or number 3 option, however you want to look at it in OKC, right? Because we do have J-Dub over there. But what he's done with this team, obviously coming off an ankle injury where he missed the entire rookie season, he's played great alongside Shea. I mean, they've really thrived playing with each other. Chet spacing the floor has been great. A couple times, when I see him go out there and be dominant in the paint like a true center, I love to see it. He goes out there and plays a little bit of bully ball, but him being 7 foot, I mean, the sky is the limit for these two men. And again, this has been fun to watch them play this year. I mean, coming in with a different size, a different style of basketball that we haven't seen in ever, 7 foot guys dribbling and shooting, fadeaways and post and step back threes and all this stuff. So it's great to see for the sport, to be honest. It really is. And then next in our conversation, right, the last thing we'll be discussing is the Boston Celtics. All right. And I know this is a bit old. I know these conversations have been going on for a while. I've been a little delayed on when it comes to talking about basketball, but Jason Tatum, right, 31 clutch points this season, 31.5% field goal percentage this year in the clutch, 15 for 48, right? You already just blew a 20-point lead versus Cleveland, right? We're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. We're going to say, all right, Dean Wade went out there and gave you 20 in the fourth, that's never going to happen again. We're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. So we're not going to hold that one against you. You blew a lead, all right, blew a 20-point lead. It happens. You know what I'm saying? It happens. When a team gets hot and you get cold, we understand, right? But is this a team you feel confident going out there and winning the East? I know they've been such a dominant regular season team, but when you get to the playoffs and you get a team like the Miami Heat, who's had their number in the past, who's pushed them with significantly less talented roster, has pushed them to game 7 after game 7 after game 7, and then you still have Milwaukee over there with now they just had a Dame. I mean, this asks a lot of questions, Is Jason Tatum clutch? Can the Celtics win in clutch games and close games? Can they go out there and win these tight series, these tightly contested games, right? Because obviously, listen, Jason Tatum, to me, has never been a clutch player. I've never seen Jason Tatum do anything that was really, clutch-ish, right? I mean, the one run they had in the finals, he had a couple clutch buckets, a couple clutch games. So I'll give him that. But in the last 2 years, especially in the playoffs, has not been that impressive, Obviously, we've seen what Miami did to them. And then you go out here and play this 20-point game. You blow that 20-point lead to Cleveland, and then you go play against Denver against this is a possible finals matchup. This is what everyone thinks the finals matchup is going to be. You go out there, shoot 5 for 13, 15 points, 5 turnovers, 4 personal fouls. Like, you almost, it's right. And I understand there's a lot of question marks about this team because they're so jump shot reliant. They rely on their jumper and their mid range and shoot so many threes, that you would like, because I've seen it. The Detroit Pistons took these guys to overtime because they were shooting 22% from 3, And the Detroit Pistons, again, were not shooting great from 3. But the fact that you were shooting so many damn threes and you weren't knocking them down, listen, Jason Tatum is what, 6'7"? 6'7", 6'6". Could be a little taller. I could be, making him look smaller. But, he's a big wing, right? He's a big forward. And you're telling me he can't just go to the basket, can't go out there and just go get to the rim, go get to the free throw line, go finish around the rim. Because, this team, you just don't see it anymore, like even Jason Tatum's attempt game winner. I forget which game I was watching. It could have even been against Cleveland, but it was against Cleveland. You had Darius Garland on you, you could have went out there, go bully ball him, but instead you tried to hit a little fadeaway, mid range, and obviously it did not fall, But I don't know. Maybe I'm being picky. Maybe it's just, I know the style of basketball is so 3-point heavy, so 3-point reliant that you see a lot of teams starting to take more threes. The Lakers have just bumped up to top 15 in 3 points attempted and made this year after the All-Star break. So, we'll see. But if you do, listen, we know Miami can come into the playoffs and lock in and really get hot, right? Jimmy Butler turns into playoff Jimmy. This dude elevates into an MVP level player in the playoffs, right? Then you still have Tyler Hero. You still have Terry Rozier, who I thought was a great addition to that team. Bam Adebayo being all defensive player again. Spoles really, they get locked in the playoffs. They go out there and they handle stuff the right way. And then you got Giannis in them, I know you have KP, but, Giannis is still a force to be reckoned with. And now you add Dame Lillard out there. We've known what he's been known for in the playoffs. And as a clutch player, I don't know, things get interesting. Obviously, a lot of people's title favorites is the Denver Nuggets. Do I see the Nuggets losing to the Celtics? No, I think, I don't. There's not many teams that could beat the Nuggets in a 7-game series, especially right now with the way they're playing. Pray they stay healthy. But listen, the Lakers have been getting slammed by these guys all year. They've been, these last 9-game win streak since they really needed to lock it in after their, championship slump. But the biggest question is, can the Boston Celtics win close games? Because it seems to me like when it gets to if they're not blowing a team out, that's when games get scary. That's when games get tight and they start losing games. Any close game I've seen of the Boston Celtics, they end up losing. If they're not blowing you out by 20 in the fourth, they're losing. And that's not a recipe for success. And especially on nights where the jumper's not falling for anybody on the team, like we've seen happen before with any other team, it just happens. And you are so jump shot reliant and heavy that you're shooting yourself out the game, is definitely something you don't want to see, and there's question marks all around this team going forward. Jason Tatum, is he a clutch player? Can he come through in the clutch? This year he sure hasn't. I understand regular season's a different story, but when Jason Tatum's got one shot in the clutch, and a lot of his shots are tough, they're just toughly contested shots. Which again, if you can make tough shots, you can make tough shots. But when that is your game and those aren't falling, it just becomes worrisome for when you get to the playoffs and you get to a team like Jimmy Butler, like the Heat. Jimmy Butler's going to go out there, he's going to go guard you. He's going to know that. He's going to know that you like to hit your little step back three. He's going to know what you like to do. He's going to, get up in your grill and force you to go to the rim. And then Bam Adebayo is going to be right there. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, the East is, other than those two teams, I really don't see anybody in the East scaring Boston, So I don't know. What do y'all think? I mean, is Jason Tatum? I mean, I know he's not top. I was gonna say top 5, but he's not top 5. We already know that. I think even top 10 might be pushing it. No, I'd have to look at a list. Except he's like on the outside of 10. But let me know what y'all think about this video, because I'm wrapping it up for the day. Hopefully y'all enjoyed my talk. We talked a little bit about the NFL, talked a little bit about the NBA. Again, let me know if y'all NBA team doing good. I know a lot of locals are out here, the Warrior fans, could be pretty happy with the last couple, 3 weeks of basketball, what they've been doing. If you're a Lakers fan, I know you're not happy right now, because I'm not happy. Let's talk about Anthony Davis. Before I close this out, I just want to talk about Anthony Davis right now. Anthony Davis has been one of the most disappointing players I've possibly been able to witness as a Laker. He is a top 3 center in basketball, which makes this the worst part. Because when you have a top 3 center in basketball, I mean, he's top 3 in DPOY, top 5 in DPOY every year. He's that good of a player on defense as well. But when you see a player like Anthony Davis go out there, and this was his first fully, most healthiest season he's had in a very, very long time. But you just see him every time we get into a big fucking game. We play the Kings. Sabonis owns him, right? Sabonis should not be owning you, dog. It should not be happening like that. Now that I'm thinking about it, AD's not even top 3 center no more. Not after what Sabonis did to him all year. And then Jokic, same thing. You match up with Jokic, you play terrible. You match up with Giannis, you do all right. But, you like to bully the not very good teams. I get it. A lot of people do. But, I mean, one of the biggest things with me and that guy is I expect him to be so much more. Obviously, the whole Lakers organization expects him to be a lot more. He's supposed to be the fucking number 1 on our team for the last 3 years, and he keeps playing like a fucking 2, And it just gets a little irritating sometimes when that's the guy who you really need to bail you out of some situations. You invested a lot of money in him, you just extended him, and he just doesn't come through with you ever, man. I mean, it's just not something you want to see, man. And I hope he tightens up for the playoffs in this last 15 games of the season, because we need it, obviously. Nobody wants to see us not make the play-in. Nobody wants to fall out of not make the playoffs, So hopefully he tightens up. And, I don't know what happened to his mid-range game, but I feel like last year, I mean, he dominated the mid-range, dominated that game. That was his game. That was his bag, was the mid-range. And this year, that shot is gone. People force him to shoot it. He can't shoot it no more. So now all of his shots, 70, 80% of his shots are all around the rim within 3 or 6 feet of the basket, which, I mean, is just not his game. He's known for that mid-range jumper that, I mean, I've seen it year after year was his best shot, his most consistent shot, was that jumper that stretched the floor just a little bit more. So I don't know, there's a lot of question marks with my team as of right now. D'Lo's on a heater, but again, we play Sacramento. D'Lo's no longer on a heater, but I'll give D'Lo the benefit of the doubt because the fact Austin Reeves was hot. So when Austin Reeves is hot, typically D'Lo's not really getting into it. Yeah. So again, let me know what your NFL team. Let me know what moves they made in the comments. Hit me up, DM me, whatever. Let's talk. With that being said, I hope y'all enjoyed. I know I said my outro twice, but again, hopefully y'all enjoy, and we out.